9 Spine-chilling neighbor horror tales, unexplained secrets of the sinister watcher next door. The Johnson family lived in Maplewood, where every house shone with the sparkle of manicured gardens and pristine sidewalks. But the Johnsons had their own secret. Every night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, their neighbor, Mr. Holloway, glared at their home through his window like a shadow with intent. He never moved, only watched. From the warm glow of their living room, Mark and Lisa exchanged uneasy glances over their steaming mugs of coffee, too aware of the gaunt figure lurking next door. Did his eyes really gleam in the darkness? Suddenly, Emma screamed one night, snatching the safety of her blanket. "Dad! I got a text." Her voice was shaky, her heart racing. "It says, the stories are true. He.S. watching." Panic gripped the room like a vice. For a brief moment, laughter bubbled up in Mark's throat, but terror took hold instead. He dismissed it. "Just a prank, Em. Probably Jenna just messing with you." Yet in the back of his mind, a knot formed. Paranoia settled in, pushing him to lock the door. Even so, the shadows grew darker around them. A sense of dread crept through their suburban sanctuary, with sinister whispers of missing cats, odd noises late at night, and the inability of local authorities to see what seemed so glaringly obvious. Families vanished, the gossipy whispers tied them to Mr. Holloway before he was abandoned to his own darkness. Every time Emma glanced at that window, a chill crawled up her spine. After a routine shopping trip, Emma insisted they keep the curtains drawn tight. But Mark laughed it off, the sound hollow, breaking up the anxiety that hung in the air. The colors inside their home felt duller somehow, the safety of their well-kept, white picket fence fraying at its seams. Was that fear really just his imagination, or was something genuinely wrong? The next day, Emma found herself at the local library, unaware of the creeping shadows around her. Old newspaper clippings grabbed her attention, revealing unsettling secrets the community had tried to bury. Mr. Holloway once had a family. His wife and daughter vanished into thin air. Emma's heart raced as she read the final line of an article, a name at the bottom circling back like a ghost, Holloway. The community pretended it never happened, but she felt the breath of those lost on her neck. Lisa found a family portrait under their doormat, an eerie juxtaposition of the past and the present, cheerful smiles twisted into grotesque expressions. "This is wrong," she whispered, shivering as terror slithered like ice down her back. The next morning, they planned a trip to escape, eager to pull themselves away from the sticky fingers of Maplewood's shadows. But just as they packed the car, Emma felt a heavy gaze. Mr. Holloway stood motionless, his presence unnatural as he watched their every move. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The suburb felt oppressive, the air thick with an unspeakable dread. As they loaded the last bags, Emma's phone buzzed yet again. "You think you can hide? You belong to this street now." The message rendered her breathless, and as she looked up, Mr. Holloway now smiled, his eyes wide, pinning her in place. The chilling truth bore down on her: their sanctuary was no longer home, and the warm glow of those streetlights turned into a haunting reminder that something twisted had taken root next door. The car doors slammed shut, echoing the sudden silence that enveloped the Johnsons. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Maplewood was holding its breath, waiting, as they stood ready to flee. Yet something made her hesitate. Mr. Holloway's smile seemed to stretch unnaturally, firming the trepidation that had settled in her gut. It was the grin of a predator, watching its prey. "Let us go," Mark urged, his voice rising slightly, breaking through the stillness. But as they stepped into the car, Lisa caught a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. Mr. Holloway's shadowy figure still loomed, a dark statue in an unsettling tableau. "Did you lock the doors, Mark?" Lisa asked, her hand twitching nervously toward the locks. Yeah, yes. I did, he replied, his voice shaky. But the truth felt precarious, dangling above their heads as fear gnawed at their resolve. Emma fumbled with her phone, desperate to contact someone, anyone. But the screen was frozen. Dad, my phone isn't working. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Suddenly, Lisa rushed forward to the window, where a new chill swept over her. Guys! He's not in his window anymore. An uneasiness tightened around them. The absence of the figure was even more troubling than his presence. Mark quickly spun around, scanning their surroundings. Maybe he's just going somewhere, he suggested, trying to reassure not only his family but himself. But the air felt heavy, alive. Emma took a deep breath, searching the dim landscape of Maplewood. He might be right outside hiding. Watching. A sensation crept up her spine. The hairs on her neck rose, and something about the dimly lit cul-de-sac made her feel exposed, vulnerable, like a gazelle on the savannah. They heard whispers not just about Holloway, but of others, neighbors turning up missing, the unspoken fears running rampant beneath stolen glances. Just as doubt clawed at Mark's heart, the weather turned. Dark clouds rolled in, blanketing the street with an oppressive gloom. Cracks of thunder whispered threats as the first drops of rain began to fall. We need to move before a sharp jerk rattled the car. Everyone froze, eyes jerked to the rearview mirror. Mr. Holloway had reappeared, not at his window, but directly behind their car. He was standing in the street, soaked in rain, the drops funneling down his sallow face. His smile remained, unsettling in its tranquility, as if he knew something they didn't move. Mark barked, fumbling with the keys. The usual click of the ignition was ominously absent, replaced by a hollow silence. Heavy knocks echoed against the window. Emma's throat constricted as she turned just in time to see Mr. Holloway closer than ever. Come out to play, he rasped, voice a low whisper that sent chills coursing like ice through everyone. Panic surged, and Mark wrestled with the steering wheel. But the car just sputtered. The headlights flickered, illuminating the ghostly scene before them. Was he really there? Or just a figment of their unraveling sanity? Go! Lisa screamed, beating at the lock, desperation overshadowing reason. Emma's heart pounded louder, deafening her ears. Outside, the rain continued to pour, the streets now glistening like a dark mirror reflecting unease. The engine coughed finally to life, but at that exact moment, the headlights caught something out of the corner of the yard, a flickering shadow, a figure darting behind their house. The tension snapped, and dread coiled around them tighter than before. Mom! What's happening? Emma shouted, eyes wide with terror. Her mother opened her mouth but no words came out. All eyes were glued to Mr. Holloway, who stood immovable, the storm swirling around him as if he were the eye of darkness. A hint of movement at the house sent them into a frenzy. What if they weren't alone? Something sinister was awakening. Suddenly, a woman's cry pierced the storm, almost reminiscent of a distant scream from beyond the veil of sanity, from someone who belonged to Holloway's shadows. Help me! And then came another text that made Emma's fingers tremble, reading. Simply, you can't escape the truth. Their world was no longer simply terrifying. It had become a living nightmare, a trap poised to close in. Would they find the courage to confront the evil beneath their own roof, or would darkness consume them? The engine sputtered and roared to life, but the tension in the car was suffocating. Emma's breath hitched as she watched Mr. Holloway stand, unmoving, rain cascading off him like a curtain of ink. She felt the panic rising, twisting in her stomach, fighting for control. Drive, Mark! Drive! Lisa shouted, her voice shaking as she jabbed a finger at Holloway. With trembling hands, Mark gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles pale against the darkness. I'm trying. He replied, but the car hesitated, the tires still protesting against the slick asphalt. Outside, the world blurred into a mixture of shadows and shifting rain. The howl of the wind grew louder, mingling with the eerie silence of the house looming nearby. What are you waiting for? Emma hissed, glancing again at the back window, where Mr. Holloway's smile remained too wide, too knowing. Suddenly, the headlights caught a flicker of movement again. A figure dashed past the side window, a fleeting blur that left Emma and Lisa gasping. It was gone before they could process what they'd just seen. "Did you see that?" Emma whispered, her voice barely above the din of the storm. Mark strained to hear over the noise, his brow furrowed in confusion. "See what?" But Emma was too frightened to respond. Her heart thudded loudly against her chest, drowning out rational thought. "Just go!" Lisa shouted, a desperate edge sharpening her words. With a jolt, Mark twisted the key one final time. The engine sputtered again, then came to a roaring life as the car lurched forward. They were free, racing down the street, but who knew where to? As they sped past Holloway, whose shadow seemed to stretch and warp against the dying light, Emma's gaze lingered on him longer than she intended. In a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a flicker of movement behind him. Was it the reflection of a figure in a window? No. It was too dark to tell. Fear settled in deep as they drove away, wishing they could leave the nightmare behind. The rain lashed against the windows like the shouts of the damned, and a deep breath gave little comfort. "What if he follows us?" Emma said, her voice trembling as dread crawled back into the car. "He won't," Mark said, forcing confidence into his words. "He can't." But they all knew there were powers in Maplewood that defied explanation. Shadows that lurked, waiting for the unsuspecting. The road ahead twisted beneath a canopy of trees, a ghostly tunnel that swallowed them whole. Lisa glanced at her phone, a flicker of hope that maybe they could get help. But the screen remained dark, nothing but silence answered her. "What's wrong with it?" Mark asked, stealing quick glances from the road to the rearview mirror, half expecting the smiling face to appear again. "Nothing works," Lisa cried. It's as if suddenly, the car's lights flickered, vibrating like they were alive. An electrical surge pulsed through the dashboard, and then darkness. The car skidded to a stop, all systems dead. "What just happened?" Mark whispered, fear creeping into his tone. Heavy silence enveloped them. They were trapped. The storm raged ominously outside like a living creature, and in the distance, a faint but unmistakable sound began to rise, children's laughter, echoing through the darkness. "What the?" Emma started, but no one had an answer. The sound twisted like a knife in her gut, unearthing memories of not just innocence, but of things not spoken of, and then there was a figure at the edge of the trees, half hidden in shadows. Was it Holloway? It didn't matter. They could feel it watching. As the laughter grew louder, Mark's tension broke. "We're getting out of here." The doors swung open, rain pouring into the car like the desperate wishes of ghosts. But just then, Emma froze, her heart racing faster than she'd ever known. From somewhere deep in the gloom came a soft, chilling voice. "You shouldn't have left." Their world began to shatter, and as the laughter merged with their panicked breaths, another figure emerged from the darkness. They were not alone. Emma's mind raced. What had they stumbled into? The cold grip of fear tightened around her throat. This was only the beginning. What else lay hidden in the shadows of Maplewood? Emma's heart pounded as the shadow moved closer, creeping out from the murky veil of the trees. A figure, small yet oddly menacing, appeared. The laughter twisted into shrieks as more shapes gathered behind it. Children, at least that's what they seemed, eyes bright with unholy glee, faces shadowed and twisted in the dim light. "Get back in the car!" Mark shouted, dragging Emma by the arm. But she was rooted. The laughter curled around her, wrapping her in a thick, vile warmth. The shadows danced, pulling her gaze toward the children, whose laughter faded into whispers, enticing and insidious. "Stay with us," they chimed, their voices a haunting melody that tickled her ears. Emma blinked, trying to shake off the spell they cast. Lisa yanked her back, breaking the moment. "Do you hear that? We have to leave, now." Mark hesitated, glancing around. "What do they want?" The smallest child, no taller than a shrub, stepped forward. "We just want to play." His smile was too wide, too eager. The rain glistened off his lips, revealing sharp teeth. "They want to play?" Emma echoed, her throat tightening. "What kind of game?" "Hide and seek." The chorus of children resounded, a wave of eerie excitement rising. "You already found us, you have to seek us now." "The hell with that!" Mark shouted, his voice a mixture of anger and fear. "We're not playing anything. Get back." But it was too late. One of the boys dashed into the trees, laughter trailing behind him. The others followed in a flurry of giggles, their voices a haunting serenade disappearing into the dark. "Mark, we need to go now." Lisa screamed, grabbing her brother's arm, panic spilling through her eyes. That was just stupid," he mumbled, scanning the shadows where the children had vanished. The suffocating atmosphere pressed in around them. "Why aren't you getting in?" Emma cried, her fear mounting as she glanced back at the darkness. They could be anywhere. Mark cast one last long look into the woods, his instincts screaming that the only way out was to flee, but something rooted him there. What if they're lost? Then let them stay lost. Lisa snapped, nearly shoving him toward the car. The storm intensified, raindrops slashing the ground like knives, drowning out the laughter that echoed back to them. No one noticed the shape lurking behind them, a tall, gaunt figure slipping silently from the shadows, moving with an inhuman fluidity. "What's that?" Emma hissed, her body suddenly frozen by an unseen force. The air grew thick, oppressive, as the figure stepped closer. Its face remained hidden beneath a hood, but its presence twisted the very essence of safety. Emma felt bile rise in her throat. "Run!" Mark shouted, finally breaking out of his stupor. They didn't have to be told twice. The three of them piled into the car, slamming the doors just as the figure reached them. Mark fumbled with the ignition, heart pounding louder than the pouring rain. But the engine sputtered once more before falling silent. Panic surged as the laughter crept back, swirling around them, enveloping the car in malice. "Why isn't it starting?" Emma's eyes darted to the window, half expecting the figure to press against the glass, its cold breath fogging the surface. Lisa pressed the lock button repeatedly, her breath quickening. I don't know. Mark cursed under his breath, smashing the steering wheel in frustration. Please come on." As shadows swelled around the car, the children's laughter morphed into a cacophony of taunting voices. "You can't leave. You have to play with us." The dread settled heavy on Mark's shoulders as he slammed his hands against the wheel. And then, the soft, chilling voice whispered from outside, "You shouldn't have left, and now you can't." Emma's breath caught. The figure hovered close now, the faint light from the dying headlights revealing a glimpse of its gaunt face. Hollow eyes stared back, gripping her soul, twisting memories she dared not voice. With a surge of adrenaline, Mark turned the key again, desperation fueling him. But all that answered was the silence of the dying storm. Until a single laugh echoed, sharp and having lost containment, and something whispered, "Time's up." Darkness loomed large, and as their hearts raced with nowhere to run, the door's rattling chill beckoned a game they hadn't chosen. Just as the darkness threatened to swallow them whole, another figure stepped closer, holding what looked like a small toy, a withered doll, grinning and dripping rain like blood. What kind of game had they stumbled into, and why did a part of Emma feel a sick desire to stay? The engine died again, and an oppressive silence fell over them, punctuated only by the rhythmic downpour. Emma pressed her palms against her ears, trying to drown out the laughter, but it slipped through like a whispering wind, relentless and mocking. "What do we do?" Lisa's voice shook, her eyes wide as she glanced between Mark and Emma. Fear twisted tightly around her throat. "Someone just breathe." Mark shot back, his voice strained. He slammed the wheel with his palm in frustration, then turned and looked out into the inky black. "We're trapped." "I can't believe this is happening," Emma whispered, her gaze following the figure that loomed closer, the reflection of its hollow eyes now ghostly in the headlights, pulling her focus away. She shifted to the surrounding darkness. They're just kids, they can't be real. But her heart sank deeper as she struggled against the lethargic grip of unease. Their laughter vibrated with something sinister, something more than childlike joy. The smallest child with sharp teeth stood frozen at the edge of the headlights, the doll cradled in his arms. Its smile stretched impossibly wide, and something in its pitch-weathered features stirred an old memory deep within Emma, a forgotten story her grandmother used to tell of dolls that came alive. "Do you want it?" the child taunted, stepping closer, the doll dripping water that pooled on the ground like fresh blood. Lisa shook her head vehemently. "No. We don't want anything. Just leave us alone." Without warning, the windows rattled, the air chilled, and the doll spoke, its voice a sweet, taunting sing-song. "Let us play a game. Just count to 20 the way you should with your eyes closed." "Don't listen to it," Mark shouted, the power of his voice feeble against the gathering storm. But Emma felt the pull and urge to join the game, to leave behind the fear and just play. "What if we just played for a little while?" Her voice came out a breathy whisper, hushed by the terror brimming the air. "Emma, no. Don't say that," Lisa pleaded, gripping her shoulder. "Just a game, just a little game." A cacophony of echoing giggles rose like dark waves, flooding the car with an insidious spell. Fingers of mist curled around them, and suddenly the children were everywhere, skittering along the windows, their wet faces illuminated by the weak light, eyes glinting like predators in the dark. 5, 4, 3 Mark! Emma cried, her voice trembling, raw with fear. The count was rising. 2, 1. The children shouted in unison, followed by the cheerful echo, "Ready or not, here we come." Then the car shook violently, the headlights flickering before plunging them into complete darkness. "Start the car!" Lisa shrieked. Mark's frantic fingers scrambled with the key, but it only turned uselessly. It won't start. "What do we do?" Panic surged through him, electrifying in its intensity. Suddenly, the right door creaked open as if a hand unseen had wrenched it ajar, and Emma was yanked toward the opening by invisible strings of dread. She felt herself teetering, torn between her desire to flee and an inexplicable need to step into the abyss awaiting her. "Emma!" Mark shouted, leaning over Lisa, but something outside called to her, an alluring echo of laughter. Slowly, deliberate, she stepped toward the door, losing all restraint. "Stop her!" Lisa screamed. "Emma, please!" But it was too late. Voices crescendoed, all around her, enveloping her in a secret that's been waiting, hidden within shadows. "Come and play, Emma, come and play." Their hands reached toward her, tiny fingers beckoning with sharpened smiles. Her heart raced, a drum in her ears, as she stood frozen at the edge of light and dark. Did she dare to surrender? And then she heard a new voice, deeper, harsher, almost a growl. "You won't let her go, will you?" "She's just what we need to finish our game." Emma stared into the endless night, paralyzed as the shadows of children twisted into grotesque forms. Was she losing her mind, or was this the reality unraveling? In the darkness, the whispering grew louder, urging her closer to an unfathomable threat, and she breathed in deeply, terrified of what she might discover. Would she step off the precipice, lured to play forever in terrifying glee, or turn back and confront the unseen horror striving to keep them all in eternal night? The choice pressed heavily on her chest, and as laughter twisted into screams, one question remained: what really waited for them in the shadows? Emma hesitated, her heart pounding wildly beneath the weight of fear. The laughter, once sweet and inviting, turned to a chilling dirge, vibrating through her bones. A gust of wind whipped through the open door, wrapping around her like frost, urging her to step outside. The faces of the children blended and shifted, smirking from shadows, each more grotesque than the last, eyes flickering like dying embers. "Emma, don't!" Mark's voice pierced through the chaos, laced with desperation. He lunged forward, trying to grasp her arm, but the darkness swirled, creating an unseen barrier between them. With every breath, something deep within her stirred, a forgotten instinct to flee or fight. But the lure of that haunting melody was intoxicating. "You can't leave us out here," whispered the doll in a voice that belonged to something ancient and cruel. She felt the pull intensify, a magnetic force drawing her closer to the icy embrace of the night. "Emma," Mark cried again, his face twisting with dread, "stay with us. We can't lose you." Torn between the warmth of her friends and the seductive call of the unknown, she stood trembling, rooted to the spot. Outside, the shadows converged, their movements becoming a macabre dance, circling around the car, closing in. "Just come play," the children chimed, their tiny voices layered, creating a symphony of invitations that seemed to weigh heavy with promise and terror. "We need you to complete our fun for a fleeting moment," clarity edged through the fog of fear. "What happens if I go?" she breathed, barely able to form the words. The doll's painted smile grew wider, and the children began to sway, their figures undulating in the nighttime gloom. "We'll all be together. Forever." They sang, echoing through the wind, and with it came a sharp chill that made her shiver. "Emma." The urgency in Mark's voice pulled her back momentarily. "You don't know what they want. They're not playing a game. They're trapping you." The scent of damp earth and sweet decay wafted through the air, suffocating, and she felt herself teetering again. Without thinking, she stepped back from the threshold, struggling to hold on to the warmth of the headlights still flickering dimly in the darkness. Their laughter turned malevolent, and the figures outside grew still, the smiles twisting into sneers. For every moment she hesitated, shadows morphed, growing taller, more ominous. "We'll find you, Emma. You can't hide forever." The voice was guttural, rising above the laughter, striking her spine like a whip. "I want to play," she yelled, her voice break through the deathly silence that followed. The laughter halted, but not for long. A terrible unity emerged among the children, their features tightening into frightening expressions of rage. "Leave her alone," Lisa screamed, but her words only fueled the chilling rage surrounding them. In that moment of psychological warfare, the doll lifted its head, sending rivulets of water cascading down its once pristine dress, now stained dark. The air crackled with an unbearable tension, and then came the tapping, a rhythmic pounding on the windows, like fingernails scraping against glass. One by one, the children vanished into the shadows, melting away into the night, leaving only that relentless sound of tapping, growing louder, more insistent. As Emma fought against the overwhelming sensation of being watched, she felt a new presence. It permeated the air like static electricity, pressing down on them, heavy with impending doom. Suddenly, her eyes caught a flicker of something at the edge of the headlights, a pair of eyes watching, waiting. "Emma!" Mark screamed again, his breath heavy, panic soaring. She turned to face them, to plead for help, but the shadows were alive, writhing and whispering secrets she couldn't understand. All at once, the whispering grew, wrapping around her, drowning out all other sounds, and then, among the creeping horror, came that guttural voice again, unyielding and dark. "Our game's just begun, Emma. You can't escape your fate." An icy dread settled deep in Emma's bones as the realization hit her. They were not just children, they were spirits of the lost, and they were hungry with a dreadful breath. She had to choose. To get out or to stay and embrace the ultimate play. She glanced back, her resolve dissolving under the probing eyes of the darkness. Mark eyed the night around them twisted tighter, ready to unleash its terror, as she awaited the final choice that could seal their fate. What would happen if she decided to play along? Emma's body trembled as she processed those haunting words, "You can't escape your fate." What fate? What game? The shadows swelled and retreated like a tide, circling the car, taunting her resolve. The tapping persisted, more insistent, turning into a furious drumroll that echoed in her ears. "Emma, please," Mark breathed, despair filtering through his voice. He felt like a lifeline, but the darkness wanted to pull her away. She caught a glimpse of the others, their faces stricken with fear, mirroring her own turmoil. Beneath the shadows, she sensed the children shifting, their forms contorting and reforming. "Don't listen to them," Lisa shouted, her voice trembling. They'll take you. They want to trap your soul. Just then, the air thickened with a dreadful weight as shadows thickened around Mark and Lisa. Emma's heart raced as she realized they were not merely trying to protect her, they were caught in the same web the spirits had woven. We can fight it, she shouted, eyes darting between her friends and the encroaching darkness. Fight what? Came a voice from the swirling shadows. A child's laugh echoed, bright and chilling, stirring her fear. You can't fight the game, Emma. You belong with us. A frantic jolt of energy surged through her as she desperately pondered the implications of their words. What kind of game? For an agonizing moment, she felt the pull of impossibility. She wanted to believe they could unite against the darkness, but the enticing whispers grew louder, painting vivid images of joy. A life of endless fun with these lost spirits, stripped of worry and burden. How could she resist? Emma! Mark shouted again, straining against the encroaching shadows. You're stronger than this. Don't give in. A flicker of warmth ignited in her chest. Mark's faith suffused her with courage. Maybe she could break free. But as soon as that thought solidified, the children surged forward, their ghastly faces illuminated in the car's headlights, twisting from playful rapture to terrifying wrath. Leave her! Mark bellowed, lunging toward the door, only to stumble back as a dark haze enveloped him, gripping him in icy tendrils. Anguish clouded his face, and with it broke equipment. Another illusion cast by the darkness. Emma's breath hitched. She could feel the cold suffocating the air, taste the acrid fear lingering on her tongue. Cold, malicious tendrils curled around her feet, anchoring her in place. No! She cried, forcing her legs to move, to step away from the shadows that curled impatiently at her ankles. The children's laughter morphed into a chilling chant, their voices weaving through her mind. Join us! Join us forever! Enough! She screamed, her voice cutting through the haze like a blade. She could feel the shift. The heaviness of the darkness wavered just for a moment. But it was fleeting. The desperate pull of the spirits felt like hands grasping at her soul. Then, another thought struck her. A plan. If they were feeding off her fear, could she instead conjure defiance? I will not play with you! She shouted, summoning her courage, her fists shaking as she held on to that final shred of hope. The shadows paused, a stillness engulfing the chaos. For a brief moment, silence hung in the air, heavy with expectation. Why do you resist? The voice was a soft hiss, cutting through the tension. You'll come to us, eventually. Just wait. And then, a shrill scream pierced through her thoughts, a bone-chilling sound. Not from the shadows, but from Lisa. Emma! We have to go. Now. Emma's eyes darted towards the voice but found only darkness weaving in her mind. Mark was still fighting, but time was slipping. She took a deep breath, a desperate plunge into the unknown. I want to let you take them. In that moment, she closed her eyes and thought of the warmth of laughter, of memories shared. The shadows froze around her, the cacophony faltering. But just as hope began to break through, an oppressive dread returned, darker and deeper than before. Foolish girl, the guttural voice whispered, you cannot deny what you truly are. She could feel the ground shift beneath her, and the familiar warmth slipped further away. It felt like an abyss was stretching before her, ready to swallow her whole. Emma! Mark's voice trembled, but she was already sinking. Mark! As the darkness closed in and the children's faces twisted back into view, a cold realization took root within her. Every heartbeat thudded louder as the shadows surged. Their game needed her, and if she lost now she would never find her way back. And amid the chaos, that haunting whisper returned, welcome to the game's final round. What did that even mean? And at what cost? As all hope seemed to blink out, Emma felt the true horror of the game settling in, and wondered if she might ever escape the abyss. Would they all be lost forever? Darkness engulfed Emma, swirling like a tempest around her as she sank deeper. The laughter of the children echoed clamoring in her mind, warping the air with their enticing promises. She tried to grasp onto a memory, to feel something, anything that would anchor her, yet only shadows responded, grasping with icy fingers at her thoughts. "Don't be afraid," the echo of a child's voice taunted. "This is just the beginning." "What beginning?" Emma shot back, her voice breaking the silence that clung to her like a veil. "What do you want from me?" A chorus of whispers filled her ears, like a chant rising in intensity, feeding off her fear. "You'll understand soon, just play the game." Suddenly, a searing pain lanced through her chest, yanking her back to the present, to the car trapped in the night. She gasped, her breath fogging the air before her. The shadows began to peel away, retreating only slightly, but their chill clung tightly, squeezing the air from her lungs. Emma opened her eyes, her vision blurred, but the faces of her friends remained clear. Mark's expression was twisted in pure terror, desperation in his eyes like frayed ropes. "What's happening?" he pleaded, reaching out as the chill began to reel him closer into the dark. "I don't know," Emma shouted, fighting against the pull wrapping around her. "But we can't let them win." "Win?" Mark repeated, incredulous, and as if summoned, the shadows shivered with glee, swirling faster around them. The children's laughter rang out again, almost jubilant. "You already play, Emma. In fear, you are our queen. Embrace it." "No!" Emma screamed, shaking her head violently. "I want to play your game. I choose my fate." For a moment, the shadows recoiled, a ripple of uncertainty brushing against the edges of darkness. But their moment of hesitation was short-lived, quickly replaced by a sinister laughter that echoed with malicious glee. "Fate is not yours to choose." The voice boomed, resonating through her very soul. "You are trapped in the cycle, time to take your place." Suddenly, a faint light flickered in the distance, a beacon in the overwhelming dark. It danced like a firefly, enticing and promising. "Emma, look!" Lisa shouted, pointing toward the glowing ember as if it were their salvation. Emma's gut twisted with hope and fear. Could it be a way out? An escape? "We have to go," she yelled. Extending a trembling hand to Mark and Lisa, she urged them. "To the light." But as they moved toward it, the shadows countered, squeezing tighter, like a living thing, seeking to crush them back into the blackness. The laughter grew louder, more menacing, becoming a chant that filled her mind with doubt. "Join us. Stay with us." Emma stumbled forward, trying to fight the shadows' hold, but it felt like running through thick mud. Every step was a battle against her very essence. "We can't give in. Focus, Emma," Mark shouted, his voice slicing through the clutter of sound. "Think of something that makes you strong. Something you love." A memory flashed: her grandmother's embrace, warmth flooding through her, laughter ringing in a room filled with sunlight. With all her might, Emma shouted, "I choose love." The cry interrupted the dark immersion, sending shockwaves rippling through the shadows. They stuttered, hesitating again. But their laughter morphed into deafening screams, piercing her ears. "No. That's not how the game works." Emma could see the light flicker, brighter now as if responding to her defiance. It beckoned with a strength she hadn't felt before. Clenching her fists, she pushed forward, refusing to look back. Mark and Lisa followed, a surge of energy unifying them. The shadows screamed. The air crackled with energy, the oppressive weight lessening as their combined determination reached out toward the light that it wrapped around them, casting the dark away like a veil. But then, a voice broke through, slick and oily. "You think you can escape? Remember, the game has only just begun." The pull of the shadows faltered but didn't vanish. Just as they neared the light, Emma felt the earth tremble beneath her. The ground erupted, dark vines curling up from below, reaching for her. "Emma!" Mark shouted, panic igniting anew in his voice. With one last effort, she screamed back, "We are more than your game." As they lunged for the light, the ground gave way, falling like sand through an hourglass. The darkness surged once more, trying to drag them back. And in that moment, Emma realized they weren't just fighting for their freedom, they were battling for their very souls. Would they land in the light, or would the shadows claim them forever? The abyss yawned wide, a cold gust swirling around them as they tumbled into unknown depths. Would they ever find each other again if they survived the fall? All Emma could think was, what awaited them in the dark? The world flipped, reorienting until Emma felt it land hard, the impact knocking her breath away. In the dark, she blinked, trying to adjust her eyes, trying to focus. The children's laughter echoed, louder now and more sinister, circling them like vultures. Where are we? Lisa's voice trembled, scraping against the chilling atmosphere. The darkness shaped itself into monstrous forms, long arms stretching toward them like the promises of long-forgotten dreams turned bad. Emma pushed herself up from the ground, gasping as something cold and sticky oozed beneath her fingers. She wiped her palms on her jeans, glancing around at her friends. Mark was beside her, his face pale, eyes wide. We fell. His voice cracked, fear sparking in his gaze. More like we were dragged, Emma muttered, trying to suppress her own panic. They were still together, but the oppressive darkness pressed harder, as if it were alive. It whispered lies, seducing memories that she wasn't ready to face. Emma, what do we do? Mark's plea hung in the air. Stay close, she ordered, her heart thudding against her ribcage. They needed a plan, or they would be consumed by the shadows. Yet, what plan could save them from this kind of terror? A silhouette flickered in the periphery. Emma felt her heart race, breath quickening. Did you see that? She whispered. She strained to hold on to the thin thread of courage that tethered her to reality. See what? Lisa peered into the darkness, the glimmer of panic in her eyes. Something moved over there. Emma pointed towards a deeper expanse of shadow, where the air felt thicker, almost tangible. The figure was just out of grasp, a murky silhouette with hollow eyes that seemed to watch them, judging. Let us keep moving, Mark urged, voice low. As they walked, the ground changed beneath their feet, softening like a marsh. Each step brought them deeper into unseen layers of darkness. The laughter morphed into calls, beckoning them, sweet and tempting as honey. Join us, it sang. No. We're not listening. Emma screamed, the sound echoing off the unseen walls. She could hear the fatigue in Lisa's breath, feel Mark's arm brushing against hers, reminding her they were still connected. Look. Lisa broke the silence, her voice sharp with urgency. A faint light flickered in the distance, more than just a firefly, a pulsing heartbeat of hope. Emma's breath caught. We have to go to it. It might be our way out. But the moment they turned, the shadows thickened, twisting around them like a serpent, coiling tighter with every movement. The laughter escalated, filling the air like venom, intoxicating and disorienting. Keep running. Mark shouted, yet Emma could feel the tug of despair threatening to pull them back, the danger receding and advancing like a well-versed predator. The ground shook violently, limited pathways breaking and reforming, trapping them yet again in this sinister playground. Emma felt the shadows wrap around her leg, cold and heavy, threatening to drag her down. Emma! Lisa screamed, her grip slipping against the policies of softening earth. I won't let you go. Emma shouted over the cacophony, gritting her teeth with resolve. She dropped to her knees, reaching for Lisa, feeling the weight of an immense darkness pushing against her chest. Please. Lisa reached back, her scream slicing through the horror, just as Emma clasped Lisa's wrist, a blinding flash escalated through the darkness, illuminating a monstrous face twisted in glee. It grinned wide, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Its eyes glimmered with malice, pure evil pulsing through the illusions that hung in the dark. Time to join us forever. It roared, shaking the very core of their souls. They were so close, yet so far away. Emma's heart raced, pounding like a drum, caught in the electric air. We're fighting. She gasped through deep breaths, swallowing her hopes, darkness still wrapping around them, but in that moment, they could either succumb to the overwhelming shadows or find a way to push through. Emma could still feel the warmth of love, her grandmother's arms, the laughter of sunlight spilling through, happy memories fighting to keep her soul intact. Push through! Emma yelled, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. With a primal roar, she pulled Lisa closer, but the darkness gripped harder, hissing in fury. And just as Emma felt herself slipping, she yelled, "We won't give in." Suddenly, the ground beneath them erupted, dark tendrils shooting up and snapping like lightning. "Get out!" Mark shouted, wrestling against the pull, desperate to escape. But as they surged toward the flickering light, a new realization hit Emma like a freight train. What if the shadows were right? What if the children, the whispers, were drawing them toward something irreversible? Emma's heart raced. The shadows might not be their only enemy. What if the light held its own secrets? Wait! She cried, halting. What if? Fear knotted in her gut. In that moment, standing on the threshold between darkness and light, the question loomed. Was the light the escape or just another trap? Their fate shimmered in the air, a thin thread wavering between what they knew and the unknown that lay ahead. As the ground threatened to swallow them whole, the laughter crescendoed, and the choice grappled with Emma's resolve, hanging there in the tense, cold air. What waited for them on the other side of the light? Emma felt the world around her spinning like a chaotic whirlpool, the shadows closing in, whispering truths she did not want to hear. Her heart raced, pumping wildly against the weight of fear pressing on her chest. The laughter of the children reverberated through the darkness, taunting and sinister, mingling with their desperation. "Emma!" Mark shouted again, pulling her back toward him, grounding her with urgency. She locked eyes with him, desperation etched in his expression. "We can't lose you." Torn between the insidious shadows and her friends, Emma felt the air thicken, suffocating them in a miasma of dread. "What if the light isn't what we think?" She questioned, her voice barely above a whisper. Just a step, just a heartbeat. But in that moment, something tugged at her heart, pulling her back to the warmth of the daylight world. Lisa's face twisted with fear and concern as she glanced towards the flickering light. "We don't know what's waiting there. We need to make a choice now. Emma. We have to go right now." Before Mark could finish, he was yanked backward by the onslaught of darkness, his shout piercing the thick air. Emma's resolve steadied her feet. She would not let this darkness consume them. "No. We will not play this game. We will not." Emma screamed, pouring every ounce of strength into her voice. It echoed through the abyss, catching the shadows off guard for just a fleeting second. Around her, the darkness hesitated. She turned toward the light, the warmth beckoning. "We can do this together." Emma called. "Focus on us. On our bond. We fight as one." With fierce determination, she tugged at Lisa's hand, anchoring them both as they stumbled forward, the powerful whispers crashing against them like waves. "Remember who we are. We are not alone. Together." Emma shouted, overcoming the darkness wrapping around them. As they surged toward the light, more powerful than they'd ever felt, a blistering roar erupted from the depths behind them, but it had lost its potency. Something within the shadows shifted, quivering at their resilience. That light was growing brighter, illuminating the tumult of swirling darkness. "Keep going." Mark shouted, fighting against the hold of shadows that clawed at his legs. The fear in his voice only fueled Emma's determination. She felt the grip of darkness loosening, momentarily stumbling at the strength of their bond. "Together. We can break through." Lisa echoed, her voice soaring above the chaos. The grip of despair felt like faint fingers loosening, and they surged forward, eyes focused on the radiant light that seemed closer each second. With one last push, the three broke free from the chains that bound them and dove headfirst into the brilliant glow. A wave of warmth washed over them, engulfing them in purity, and for a split second, Emma was weightless. The light surged through her, washing away the remnants of fear, illuminating the profound darkness that had swallowed their joy for so long, but then silence. The darkness lingered, shadows receding, revealing a dim light that felt almost tangible. They tumbled into a landscape painted in twilight, the air crisp and fresh, a stark contrast to the horror they just escaped. A serene meadow unfurled before them, dotted with colorful flowers swaying gently under a soft breeze. The laughter that had haunted them echoed faintly in the distance but began to fade. Emma turned to Mark and Lisa, all three of them breathless but together. "We made it," she whispered, still in disbelief. Mark nodded, his eyes softening. "We survived, together." But deep down, they all understood that darkness lingered just outside their new sanctuary after all. They had managed to escape the suffocating grip, but those spirits were not all gone. "Remember the laughter?" Lisa broke the silence gently, her voice steady despite the tremor that lined it. "It's still out there. We shouldn't ever forget what we faced." Emma reached for their hands, tight in her grasp. "No, we won. We're stronger now. The game may be over for us, but we have to help others." A look of determination passed between them. The shadows would always be a part of their past, lurking beneath the surface, but it was their love and friendship that would hold them together as they moved into the unexplored future. As they turned to leave the meadow, the sun broke through a cloud, casting warm rays across their path. Together, they stepped into the golden light, leaving behind the echoes of a childhood game that had turned sinister. They would never take their safety for granted again, but as they stepped forward, a low whisper hummed through the wind. "You'll return." Emma felt a shiver. But they were ready to confront not just their fears but also the unknown that lay ahead. They walked into a new lasting dawn, leaving the fragment of darkness behind while carrying their truth, the resilient strength of love and unity. And somewhere, far away, the laughter faded. Now it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will shock and thrill you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let us make sure others hear about this wild journey. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this mesmerizing ending. And do not wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends you know will freak over this conclusion. Your support means everything.